Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu Alaikum. I'm Zarbab Mazhar Toor and welcome to my channel. Today the course that we are going to study is Functional English. The basic course outline of this subject is divided primarily into the foundation of functional English, comprehension and analysis, effective communication. As the course is divided into 3 sections, so I find effective communication to be discussed earlier because it's a bit interesting topic, so it will create interest for the further studies among students. So starting with the effective communication, there are multiple things that are being shown below, but we are going to start with the main mode, that is effective communication. Now, what is communication? First of all, we need to discuss what actually communication is all about. Generally, communication is very common thing for all of us, that communication simply means to communicate with one another. Coming to the definition, the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. Another definition of communication is means of sending or receiving information such as phone lines or computers, etc. So basically what we do in a communication, we impart and exchange information. This exchange of information from one person to another person, or from one person to a wide range of people, by any means like speaking, writing, or using some other medium. In short, whenever you are exchanging information or your ideas, thoughts from one person to another person, then we say that communication is done over here. There are multiple examples. For example, if there is a student-teacher, student and a class, a teacher and a class, then I would say that there is a communication, face-to-face communication, where the teacher is speaking and the students are listening, and they are sharing ideas with each another. So thus we can say that the communication is done over there. But another thing comes to the mind, that why we call our communication effective, or when we can call our communication as effective communication. So for this purpose, we need to understand the process of communication. Let's discuss the process of communication. Sender, for example, the sender is the teacher. Message that is being delivered, then while it's delivering, then the other section is the media or the medium. The receiver got and he decoded the message and received that. Here there are 2 segments, encoded and noise, after the message. Encoding means, for example, whenever the sender is sending a message, first of all what you do, brainstorm the thoughts and the ideas are in your mind and you encode them, then you deliver that message. That message is received by a receiver, then he decodes, first listens to that from his ears and then he decodes that. Decode means trying to analyze or understand whatever the message is delivered, and then he behaves or give feedback. So this is the basic process of communication, and when this process is fulfilled, only then we can say our communication is effective. Anything that creates an impact, it is effective then. Other than if your communication lacks something, lacks clarity, or lack any medium for which the communication remains incomplete, then we can't say that our communication is more effective. So talking about the effectiveness of the communication, there are multiple things that we can discuss later on, but for now we can talk about the tips for effective communication. As from the beginning till the end, I am talking about communication, effective communication, and then the process of communication. So firstly, I will be revising what is communication. Just we can say here that imparting or exchanging of ideas, thoughts from one person to another person. Fine, this is communication. This communication doesn't means that it can be done with words only, but it can be done with the gestures as well. For example, if anybody asks that how are you, we just nod our heads. Even then the communication is done, because the other person receives the message that this person is fine. Now, talking about the effectiveness of the communication, our communication is more effective if the communication is done properly. As in the earlier slide, we talked about the sender and the receiver. The sender sends the message to the receiver, but before sending it, before saying it, just assume yourself as a speaker. For example, right now I am the speaker, I am speaking, but before speaking, uttering my words, I just analyzed or make up few words or sentences in my mind. A thought process, I did a thought process that what I am going to state further. Then the message is conveyed to the receiver. He receives it by hearing. He hears my message and then decode or analyze that accordingly, and then gives the feedback. Fine. Now talking about the tips of effective communication. The first tip is effective listening. Now why we are talking about the tips of effective communication? Because it will be helping you for better communication, to make your communication more accurate and more frequent and with more clarity. So if you want to be a good communicator, for that purpose you need to be actively listening to the things. For example, if a person or if a student doesn't pay attention in the class, what will be happening, that nor he will be able to communicate with his or her teacher, but also he won't be able to perform well in studies, because he will be lacking effective listening. The person who never listens to anybody, how can be he able to communicate in a better way? Now the second point is utilizing feedback. Okay, what happens that, for example, while I am talking, just assume that there are two people in front of you and both of them are talking to each other. So while utilizing feedback, for example, if anybody asks me how are you, and if I doesn't respond, then what is going to happen? That the person will stop talking to me. Might be possible he may think that might be possible that she is a bit rude, I mean, might be possible that he considers me that she has some hearing problem. So if you want your communication to be effective, then you have to give feedbacks, you have to nod. Giving you another example, for example, there is a big class and a teacher. If the teacher asks, that we usually do, did you get the point, or have you listened the whole thing, everything is clear to you? And if you are saying yes, or you nod your heads, then you are giving the feedback that yes, the communication is done properly. I hope this example will be very helpful for you. Another thing is regulating information flow. What happens that while communicating, because communication is just not done within formal limits or boundaries, but it is also done on a daily basis, informally or formally. Now, regulating information flow, what does it state? For example, if I am delivering something and suddenly I stop delivering or imparting knowledge or my ideas, then what will happen? The other person or the other party will feel bored, and when they will start feeling boredom, they will lose interest, and when they will lose interest, they won't be listening to you properly. So the communication once again will be neglected. Another point is create an environment of trust and confidence. Now, how can we create that environment to communicate effectively? For example, there are employees and employer relationship. Now, what happens that if you build a good atmosphere of good fellowship, you communicate better way. For example, if I am having a colleague with me and I just state her that I'm not feeling well due to this reason, because she is having trust or faith in me, she will obviously she will be noting all these things, that she isn't complaining for any other reason, but it's a genuine reason for her. So this is a proper way of communication. Another is to reduce psychological barriers. Now, psychological barriers are very big barriers. How? For example, if we effectively communicate, in an effective way means that if we are properly communicating or addressing our ideas to that another person, so there are the chances that the other person won't take it negative or won't take it to the other side. For example, when you don't have trust, when you don't communicate in a better way with the other party, so there are possibilities are increased of misunderstandings. So misunderstandings are increased. For example, if you are talking to a friend, the friend knows my nature or the other's friend nature, so the barrier of psychological barrier that might be possible of thinking her actions as in a wrong way, so you take everything in positive way, because you have been effectively communicating with her, you have created the environment of trust and confidence, you have been listening to her effectively, you have been giving her feedbacks, and you have been regulating the information flow. I hope all 5 of these tips are clear to you. The next is avoid information overload. So this normally happens, information overload normally happens in formal communications, where for example a lecture of 1 hour, there is a lecture of 1 hour and the teacher is imparting knowledge, what should I say, that throwing knowledge over the students, and that isn't absorbed by the student, because the knowledge has been, the amount of knowledge has increased, and the tendency of a student is to absorb the knowledge till half an hour. So the information should be according and to the situation. The regulation of the flow of information should be according to that. Another thing is two-way communication. So communication is always done in a two-way. For example, how? If I'm trying to ask or trying to communicate with one of my friends, if she won't be responding me, so then the communication is not possible, or the flow of information won't be that good, because the one person is talking, extremely talking, and the other person is just ignoring and not listening to her or him. Fine. So the flow of information should be two-way always. The other thing is use of simple language. Always while communicating, I always give a tip, advice to the students, my colleagues, everyone. Try to use simple language because simple is the best way. When we get fancy or fancier, what happens that the other person won't be able to understand whatever you are saying. Got it? So be simple in your words so that it make your words comprehensible for the other person. So thank you so much, and JazakAllah for your time and support. Don't forget to like and share, and press the bell icon for the next videos. In the next lecture we'll be sharing about the types of communication. Inshallah, meet you next time. Allah Hafiz. Stay tuned.